Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It's a little after 6 p.m. So we'll get started. Last few sessions, we've talked about forgiveness, and there's a lot there. So we're talking about the power of it, which kind of describes where we are now, the state of the world right now, and kind of tying those things together. And it really opening up our eyes to see the opportunities that lies within true forgiveness, not just the word saying it, but true forgiveness from the heart. So that's what we've been exploring the last few days and last few sessions, rather. Uh, but a lot of other things are going on. Did anyone have any questions or comments about anything you may have seen or in scripture or anything?
Yeah, Ron, I got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, Matthew 24 and 35.
Matthew 24 and 35.
Uh-huh. And it says, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Where is heaven and earth going to pass? I mean, where is it? Can you explain to me where is it going? So what is it actually saying, heaven and earth shall pass away?
Okay. I haven't looked at that, but and I hope other people, Pastor, you on kind of help out here. But we do know this is not physical, right? This is a spiritual saying, and from what off the top of my head, I'm thinking that this may be talking about the concept that we live by now of heaven and earth will pass away when truth is known. We live, the earth is now dominated by religious concepts and false teachings and doctrines that people use the scriptures even to draw their own conclusions. And to me, that may be part of what is being said here. Once truth is known, these things will no longer be dominant in the earth. Am I on the right track, Pastor, or is there something more being said there? Okay. I guess he hasn't joined us yet. Anyone else see anything different there? Okay. Tell you what, Kathy, we'll wait until we'll come back to that. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks.
We'll come back to it. Let him take a look at it as well. Good question though. Anyone else?
Got another one right quick, Ron.
Okay.
And it is Galatians 3:26 and 27.
Let me find that. Okay.
It says, for you are all children of God through faith in Christ Jesus, for as many of you as were baptized into Christ have put on Christ. Okay, explain it to me as the baptized into Christ. If you can, please.
Yeah. Baptism here is talking about being submerged, and which is what we're doing, is meaning that this is a spiritual thing.
You got your food already?
Will you guys mute your phones, please? Okay. So this is not talking about a physical baptism. It's talking about those who have submitted themselves to understanding truth and to understanding what is really in the book and who they truly are. So that is the baptism that it is talking about. I have, you have submerged ourselves into this understanding or the desire to understand who we are and who man is, and the responsibility that comes with that. So that's what I think it is talking about. And again, if anybody else sees something more here, please feel free to help me out.
Hi, this is Barbara. The part that talks about Jesus Christ, again, doesn't relate to a man or any human kind of thing. It relates to the character of the Christ. And the character of the Christ is in line with what you said about what truth is. So it has to do with aligning yourself with truth. And you say, well, what is truth? Truth is that which is righteous, that which is kind, that which is merciful, that which is loving. That is a part of who the Creator is. So all of it reverts back to and stems from the foundation of the characteristics of the Creator.
Thank you, Barb. Yes, I agree with that. Kathy, what do you think, or you all?
Yeah, I
Does that
understand.
make sense, Kathy?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Okay. Good question, though. Do you have another? Anyone else?
No, that's all I have.
Well, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions? Comments? Okay. I did not have a lesson per se tonight, but I had something that I thought was very interesting, and that was in Matthew 18 and verses 21 and 22. He goes on after these verses. This is where he talks about how often should I forgive. You've heard me talk about this yesterday, I guess. I feel like we have been on a journey, and we're coming to a place in the journey where, like the disciples, we can appreciate what we've learned and who we are, which means that responsibility is expected of us. And one of the big ones that guides us is you can't do anything unless you have forgiveness in your heart. I mean, any and everything we've learned from this point on over the years, before we left Columbia, before we left the building in Gaffney, all the trips we've taken to Philly, and everything is wrapped up in forgiveness. There's nothing that we've ever approached that does not have its roots in forgiveness. Forgiveness is love and compassion and harmony and everything, you know. So when you look at that, I think that's why this is so important to us, and we've just keep looking at this layers and layers of it until we see ourselves. And because as I mentioned to you yesterday, there have been things in me and at times in life that forgiveness has been something that was difficult for me. So this is I think is extremely important to us right now. Okay, I'm going to read these two verses. Okay, I'm in Matthew 18 verses 21 and 22. Then Peter came and said to him, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said unto him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. We're all familiar with this. Couple of things here. One, why did Peter say 7 times? Why was that his base? Why was that something that he thought would be sufficient? Where did that number come from? And Jesus multiplied that 10 times over. He says 70 times, not 7, 70 times. So when I start thinking about this, the 70 times 7 came to 490, or you can look at 49. Either way, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But a lot of numbers here, and I think they point to something. So I got to looking at this and trying to pull all this together, and I shot a text message to George Clark, and asked him did he have any information on the number 49, what that may mean, because I think there's something hidden here in plain sight that at least I don't see just yet. So I was hoping we could kind of open up what these numbers mean and see if we can pull this together. Okay. George, are you on right now?
Yeah, good evening, Ron. How are you? How's everybody? Yes, I am.
I'm doing great, man. What did you find out here? Enlighten me, if you will, please.
Sure. Again, when I looked at, Ron, the 490, from a spiritual perspective, what it had me to come to some thought about was looking at not just the 490 as a whole, but if we talk about the root number of 490, right? It basically speaks about 4 plus 9 is 13. Okay, and when you look at 1 plus 3, we get the root number 4. But as I mentioned, in terms of being able to look at it in terms of single digits, and that's the whole thing of coming to a root number, is that you have to look at the combined numbers and break it down to a root, a root cause or root number. And so in looking at the number 4 and looking at the number 9 and looking at the number 0, I just, again, my spirit wanted to really look at them from a single digit perspective. So when I looked at the number 0, which was very powerful, and I know we may have spoke about the importance of that spiritual meaning, but it says, 0, the spiritual meaning of 0 is a womb. And I think over the period of time,
say that one more time.
A womb, W-O-M-B.
Okay,
thank
you. Okay.
And so when it speaks about, the spiritual essence of the number 0 is a womb, it talks about 0 is a feminine vibration, open and receptive. And so I know that, again, when we talk about the masculinity and the femininity, we talk about us being both masculine and feminine, from that spiritual perspective. And so it just really caused me to appreciate when we talk about that number 0 being a perfect circle with a vortex of power at its center. And so when we talk about the whole thought of without the womb of the African woman. This is, what birthed humanity, or what humanity in its existence. And so I think it has a lot of reverence, in terms of our spiritual nature, where we can truly appreciate the importance of zero. And so when we talk about 4, 9, and 0, I wanted to look at it in the scriptures where it talked about the first shall be last and the last shall be first. But the number 0 is very, significant. So when we begin to look at that, I think it gives us an appreciation, for that endless synergies when we talk about the number 4 being the number of creation. But let me just stop for a moment, because I think that I just want to make sure again that we can, look at how that might relate to our conversation tonight. But I think it takes us back to our previous conversations, when we talked about the importance of us putting in the macro that Pastor talked about, again, the importance of the portal, the Lions portal. And so I think the number 0, again, is very relevant. And I think it's something that we need to think about when we talk about forgiveness. I was in a conversation earlier today with one of my coworkers, and she was dealing with, her son who is, basically being, very disrespectful in a sense in terms of doing things that is not of righteousness. And at the same time, again, for this person who's dealing with her son, is like she talked about forgiveness. But again, I'm seeing it coming from, a spiritual perspective in terms of the woman, where sometimes how often should I forgive a person? And it could be vice versa. But I think, again, that number 0, when we talk about, the spiritual meaning and nature of continuous flow, when we talk about how often should I forgive someone, and as you was referring to the scripture. So that's what I saw right in terms of 0. The number 9, unless there's any questions or any comments that anyone have in reference to what that might mean to them in terms of the number 0.
Okay, hold on. I got a comment, George.
Okay.
For anyone who just got on, I know Pastor just got on. Pastor, what we're doing is I looked at the 70 times 7 being 490, and I texted George earlier today and asked him did he have any information on 49 or 490. So we're looking at those numbers before we look at 7. I think all of those numbers point back to 7. 49 is 7 times 7, or 7 as we see 70 times or 7 is the 490. So that's what we're doing, just unraveling those numbers, looking at what they're saying. And what I have so far, what George has said, the 0 is a continuous flow of energy. It means womb. It means feminine vibration that is open and receptive. That's what I wrote down. Any questions about that from anyone?
This is for Mel. I have a question then. If the 0 is symbolic of a womb, if we are unforgiving, are we closing our womb? Are we becoming less receptive to the truth?
No, if you're unforgiving, you've already closed your womb.
Okay.
Good question. Anyone else?
I had written something on 0. I can't remember where I wrote it. But anyway, I'm here now, and we just had an unexpected doctor's appointment today. Just getting back.
Okay.
And if I may, Ron, and everyone calling Pastor, we were looking at, the number 490, And as I was, sharing with Ron a little bit earlier, we can look at what the root number is, which is 13. 1 plus 3 is 4. And so we know what the number 4 represents in terms of creation, but I just thought that it would be helpful, especially for me, to really look at, the single digits in terms of what they all represent, because I know that there's a connectedness, with regards to, us talking about, the importance of creation. And so as I was contemplating this, and then I looked at the number 9, it talked about, the importance of that being cosmic consciousness. And so when we talk about, the universe, or even looking at nature, I'm just trying to see it as an awakening that we can appreciate that nature, is well, the cosmic consciousness is about forgiveness. I mean, there's things that we do against nature. Sometimes we may, again, experience the wrath, or we might go through, whatever hardships. But I think it's just a way of us being able to look at how do we appreciate cosmic consciousness, and looking at the number 9 being the cycle, of completion, when we talk about going through a journey of birth, or looking at how the feminine energy plays a part of that process. And then at the same time, again, how it relates to both the physical and the non-physical. But before anything becomes physical, is basically cosmic consciousness, or non-visible. And so I think looking at that number 9, where it talks about cosmic consciousness, it talks about, again, us being able to, deal with the mind, body, soul, and spirit, and to embrace our higher calling. But the number 9 talks about the path of enlightenment. And so I just saw it, again, being something that I just wanted to share, as far as how it relates to the universe, how it relates to earth consciousness, or how it relates to as so above, so below. So the number 9 was another number that, in that 490, that I just wanted to respond on. And I think that we've all already have spoken about the number 4 and what that represents. And I think that, again, it's that number that connects the physical world, a structure, and at the same time, it symbolizes, that security, or that safety, of the home. And when we talk about the home, I'm just relating it to our foundation. And so I think that a lot what has been said, relates to those those 3 numbers. But how do we look at it in terms of forgiveness is, I think, is the question, Ryan, that you spoke about. And that's, again, what I've been meditating on in terms of just you asking me to look into this. But that's my perspective of it. But I think it's a foundation where we have to look at it from the beginning, which we talked about. But I think this gives us more of an opportunity to discuss it further. Hopefully, that resonates to a certain extent. I'm done.
Thank you, George.
So if 4 is creation, or it symbolizes creation, and 9 represents cosmic consciousness, or path of enlightenment, and then 0 represents the womb. When we forgive, every time we forgive, each time we forgive is a new beginning, in a sense. And when we forgive, the 490 is just combining or integrating cosmic consciousness with creation. It's like imbuing the energy of cosmic consciousness into creation. And when that's done, the seed that's planted in the womb, if 0 represents the womb, the seed that's planted in the womb can be fruitful. And the forgiveness, 70 times 7 equals 490, simply means every single time someone does something against you, you forgive, because every single time is a new opportunity and a new beginning for cosmic consciousness, for truth, for loving kindness, et cetera, to be impregnated in that womb, and to bring forth something beneficial. The 7 means movement and continuous flow. And I think, George, you talked about feminine vibration, open and receptive. Well, that movement doesn't stop, it continues. And so when we continuously forgive, then we do not bind up the universe's energy. When we continue to forgive, that's the continual flow of that energy, such that creation is benefited by that cosmic consciousness, and something is birthed that's righteous.
I'm just trying to absorb everything you said. That, you know, just opens up a whole new layer of forgiveness to me. You think that it's just freeing you, but it's more than that. It's much more than that. It is, as you've described, changing the universe for the the benefit of mankind. And wow.
It's much more active than it's much. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
I believe it's much more active than simply our freeing ourselves. It is
Yes.
an opportunity to free mankind by impregnating the womb with cosmic consciousness. Because if somebody does you dirty, and you forgive them, and they know that you're genuine, what comes up to the surface in their minds? How can you forgive me? The woman who forgave the man who killed her son, say, and she opens herself up to the one who murdered, and say, I forgive you, and establishes a relationship with him similar to that of her son. That's impregnating creation of cosmic consciousness of the universe, the energy of the universe. And what's birthed is something totally different than the idea of murder that the individual once had, but the idea of loving kindness, idea of justice, and not justice from the physical perspective, but justice from the spiritual perspective. The idea of equality, not from the physical perspective, but from the spiritual perspective. Meaning, she could show that they are both equal spiritually, regardless of the fact that he committed a murder physically. I don't know if that resonates, but that's where I'm going with it.
I'm sorry, Pass, go ahead.
Quick question. Hello. Quick question.
Okay.
Barb, I thought I heard you say something about forgiveness unbinding the universe. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, we are the universe. And when we don't forgive, we bind ourselves. And not only do we bind ourselves up, in other words, we can't receive what's the cosmic, as George put it, the cosmic consciousness, the energy from the universe. We can't receive it when we don't forgive. But not only are we bound, but we bind the individual to whom our unforgiveness is focused, because they can't receive anything either. And so it's like a standoff. It's like a barrenness. It's nothing new is created. It's as a matter of fact, if you look at 4 plus 9 is 13. Well, 13 also is depravity. And if you stop right there, and there is nothing that is given or received, then the original cause of that unforgiveness is just perpetuated, but probably even worse than that resonates.
Okay, you just gave me a new perspective on binding and unbinding too. Thanks.
Welcome.
Right. I'm listening at everything that that's been said, and what I see is this: if you are living in a state of forgiveness, then you are always at beginning, and when you are at beginning, then the possibilities are endless. However, if there is unforgiveness, or is there simply lip service paid to forgiving, then you have not returned to beginning. You have not restored yourself or anyone else. When we are at beginning, we realize that the unlimited possibilities simply means that we are at that point feminine, because we are at a place, or in a space rather, where we can birth anything for the benefit of mankind, because a possibility is simply a womb. And if beginning is out of the womb of beginning came everything that is, then to return to beginning is to return to the womb. When I say return, I'm not talking about a physical return. I'm not talking about well, I'm upset today and I'm going tomorrow and will return. That's not what I'm talking about at all. When I talk about returning to beginning, it is reminding yourself of who you are. It's becoming more aware of the inherent possibilities that are in you, the inherent power, as well as the obligations that comes with that. So I see what you're saying when you talk about the cosmic consciousness. Unforgiveness, when it closes the womb, it also dims the eye. You see less. Why? Because you are in the way. The only reason that you don't forgive someone is because you're not embracing spirituality for real. You are, the reason you don't forgive someone is because you are more in tune with what happens in this earth consciousness than you are in tune with the universe, or in tune with the self-awareness that you say you have. It is not improbable. It is impossible to embrace the cosmic energy, to embrace a self-awareness of who we are, to embrace the reality of everything that is. It's impossible to do that if you are unforgiving. And unforgiveness is not just saying, I'm not going to forgive you. Unforgiveness also speaks to how you treat the person or how you treat the event afterwards. Forgiving someone does not give you the right to I say disparaging things about that. I forgave you, but that's non-existent. I forgave you, but I'm not going to forget. Non-existence. You do not try to hold on to the circumstance, because if you do, all you are doing is giving life to it, is hurting you, and you have shut yourself down to the point where it is extremely difficult for you to embrace even what's being taught today or yesterday or any day. Unforgiveness is extremely powerful in a way that you don't want to be powerful. It is so powerful until it can give you a sense of disconnect. It is so powerful until your mind will convince you that you're okay when you really are not. So when we look at these numbers and we see the 13, the positivity of 13 is the thread that holds everything together. 3 and 1 is 4. So every time you forgive, you are recreating, which means that in order to recreate, in order to bring something fresh into existence, you have to be at beginning. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yeah, it does. I was also, while you were speaking, thinking about Jesus' encounter with Nicodemus. So being born again is not you having an opportunity to get things right, just you for yourself, but you having an opportunity through forgiveness to be a creator or be recognize that you are a creator. And
But you know what?
that
You know
has
what, Ron? I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm just anxious.
Go ahead. I'm just trying to talk it out, but go ahead
Okay.
if you see.
What I see is you cannot be a creator if you don't forgive. And when you do forgive, you automatically create. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes, every time.
Every single time. It is impossible for you to genuinely forgive and not create something.
So then, to put this a little broader, I suppose, a lot is going on in the world, and each and every one of those deaths and attacks and actions of brutality strikes everybody. Our forgiveness opens the womb for mankind. I see that. I see that, what we're creating now, and how we have the opportunity anyway to influence others through
And Ron,
forgiveness.
that's why it was so powerful when the Sandy Hook folk forgave. It was so powerful when the Emmanuel Church folk forgave. It's so powerful when anything that's in the focus of the world itself has an opportunity for people to vent their rage and vent unforgiveness because of some infraction done to them. But when they choose forgiveness, it permeates the universe in a sense. It's reflected back. Excuse me. It's reflected back to the universe, which gives it. And when it's done that way, everybody has access to it if they choose to receive it.
Yeah.
Barbara, I think it's imperative that we hear that, because suppose for a moment that we have been guided to this continuous discussion on forgiveness because of what's happening in the world now.
I believe
Suppo-
that.
Suppose for a moment that the turmoil that's existing in the physical place that is referenced as a spiritual doorway or spiritual gate of spirituality. Well, actually is, because Babylon was the gate of spirituality. So, or is rather. So suppose the reason we are talking about this is because if we do not do this, we have not put the energy, the life of forgiveness in the macro to the extent that it is inescapable if you have a desire to be righteous or if you have a desire to forgive. So what I'm saying in essence is this: suppose for a moment that what we are actually doing is putting the power and the energy of forgiveness out there to the extent that wherever you turn, you're going to bump into it. You're going to hear someone talk about the need for forgiveness. You're going to hear someone talk about enough is enough. No matter where you turn, it's time to stop this. Suppose we are that catalyst, because we have been talking about this one word, this one principle for days, if not weeks. And we have revisited this more times than ever. And we see it now much clearer than we have ever seen it, and embracing it with a tighter grip than we have ever thought possible, knowing that if you have to think about forgiving someone, you're not at beginning. If you have to ponder, well, I'll think about that till tomorrow, I'm not ready to do it right now. Well, you're not ready to know who you are either. Because when you truly know you're Elohim, there are no thoughts about, well, I got to ponder this. None whatsoever. You cannot possibly carry a grudge if you really have embraced who you were created to be. I hope that makes sense, guys.
I just have a comment. Hey, this is Jackie. Yesterday, when we were talking about forgiveness, and we talked about Emmanuel, the Charleston 9, and the lady forgave.
Mhm.
And just to piggyback on what Miss Barbara said about when we do forgive, we're permeating the atmosphere, the universe. So when I heard her say, I forgive you, and most of the families did say they forgave, I wasn't surprised, because we had already, Pastor, you had already been teaching on that. And any other time I would have said, nah, But I was not surprised that they forgave. And I'm done. I just wanted to add that, and I didn't say it yesterday, but it came up when Miss Barbara said that we are permeating the universe when we do forgive. And I feel like it's, we've been doing that, because I was not a bit surprised when she said that, because you had taught on it earlier, Pastor. I'm done.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for sharing that.
In regards to what Jackie said, I agree with you, even though I hadn't thought about it at all. What's happening now has the possibility of engaging the whole world in conflict. It has the possibility of not only destroying families, but destroying nations, or countries rather. This is something that has never happened in the earth before, what we are seeing in the Middle East. You can look at the battles from 1930 up to 1948. You can look at the 1967 war. You can look at the uprisings, Intifada, whatever it is. You can look at all the wars that have taken place there. You can look at the wars, World War I and II, and any other war. You will not see anything like what's taking place right now. This war that is being engaged in is not a war of Islam against Judaism or vice versa. That's not it at all. This is a war that is being engaged on a physical plane. However, it is a spiritual battle. The spiritual war that's taking place now is a war between righteousness and unrighteousness, a war between nations and country, a war between the haves and the have-nots, a war for or against greed. Everything, every ism that you can think of that we've had to encounter, all of that is wrapped up in this war. I'm not looking at what physically happens with Israel and their bombs. Neither am I looking at what physically takes place with Hamas, Hezbollah, with their responses to Israel. What I'm looking at are the principles involved. And the principles involved are righteous principles that have been co-opted and contaminated because people who are being oppressed have lost their vision of what freedom is, of what it means to conquer the powers that hover over those who are being oppressed. Every event, slavery or the establishment of Israel in that part of the world, the support that they're receiving, this is a European concept that is backed by religion, and we are the moderators of it all. It is imperative that we see the principles that are being fought for in this. Neither one of them has a pure desire for what they want. It's about winning and losing in the material world. But this is about harmony in the spiritual world. And this harmony is being, this disharmony rather, is being manifested in the way that we are seeing it play out in the Middle East and the rest of the world. Why is it that Russia has, and it's been said by Biden and everybody else, Russia did to Ukraine what Hamas did to Israel? That's what they're saying. So why is Russia not a terrorist nation? Because they are Europeans. Europeans, regardless of how brutal they are not terrorists. That is the reason I'm telling you that this is far greater than any conflict the earth has ever seen. And though it appears to be a run-of-the-mill war, it is not. There has been no one in the earth who has been willing to take a stand and say, without regard to what happens, I know I am Elohim. And in order for Elohim to create harmony, there has to be a new foundation laid. And the old foundation of principles have to be uprooted. And when we permeate the atmosphere, when we put in the macro forgiveness, this is the uprooting of the old foundations. Without this, there is no balance. There is no harmony. What we have been desiring, we are seeing played out, but we are not reading it the way it is being written. And I don't think that we have seen anything beyond the preamble of what's happening. Before this is over with, we will have been shown the whole picture of what's taking place in the spiritual realm and why is it that the universe is allowing this energy to be utilized in the way that it is. The principles have to be shown for what they are. The principles of oppression and greed, the principles of religion that is totally devoid of anything spiritual. And that's what we are seeing. We are the agents of spirituality and change. It is imperative that none of you, hear me well, it is imperative that none of you who are here listening and have listened walk around with unforgiveness and walk around with anger towards someone and still expect to be able to be a part of the spiritual body that brings the deliverance to the earth, that changes the violent, barbaric consciousness of the earth and to replace it with a consciousness that was from the beginning. Elohim, he originally brought into existence a world of harmony and gave birth to us and told us to bring harmony. And here we are in the midst of our biggest trial, the greatest obstacle that we've ever faced. We cannot afford to fail. The little things that upset you are just that, little things. Remind yourself that the journey of this earth consciousness is the burden that you carry. And it's more important to carry this burden into the land of promise, not just into the wilderness. The land of promise is the consciousness of promise. And the consciousness of promise is the consciousness as above, so is below. As the mind, as the soul processes spiritually, so shall the mind. This is a burden that we carry gleefully, because whether we see it from the eyes of this body manifest, or whether we see it on the other side, it doesn't matter. We have been tasked with bringing harmony to the consciousness of the earth. And harmony does not necessarily mean everyone getting along. Harmony means that the prevailing principles of spirituality are the principles that are the guiding force for humanity, with those in tow who need healing from the obstinacy of their their ways, so that they too can be delivered and become a deliverer, as we as Elohim are deliverers. Leave your human body behind. What I mean by that is this: don't focus on it. Focus on who you are till you get comfortable with it. And when you're comfortable with it, you'll always be it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments, guys?
Yeah, Ron, I have a question, and
Yes, sir.
on Saturday, Barbara, mentioning about the Republican nominee for the Speaker, I guess, of the House, and there was a Bible that was on the podium, and I think, Barbara, you had alluded to that, and I was just, giving some thought in terms of us being able to see symbols, or us being able to see something that, are dear to us, but how, again, it could be used in that situation. And I don't want to say contamination, but how it could be used in a religious way, but at the same time, the spirit not being right with regards to the importance of the spiritual principles of what we come to know and believe that should be the truth, the light, and that spirit of harmony. But I was just, curious, Barbara, in terms of what your thought was about when you saw it, and were there any thoughts that you had about it? If you could speak on that.
To me, it was just a prop, just like Trump carrying the Bible. When he cleared out that square, be in front of the church with the Bible, and it was upside down. What they're doing is using what they feel religion is tied to as props to perpetuate the unrighteousness. And the speaker may think he's right, but how does one think he is right when it's okay to oppress people, when it's okay to oppress people in the United States, when it's okay to take food out of babies' mouths, when it's okay to continue with this debt that students are in, when
when big business has been released and forgiven of their debts. It's what you said, George, when you said you have to follow things to its root, and the root is rotten. And so the Bible is a prop until that individual sees, quote unquote, with his eye and moves beyond the religiosity, because that's what it is.
Thank you, Barbara, for sharing that. I was just, wanted to get your perspective on it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I just want to say, I hope we realize how powerful those words are. Audra said something a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about names, and she was talking about righteousness having the power or the authority, how I can't remember how she said, to change the names. So what Barb just said, because of righteousness, that's what it is. It's a prop. That's the power of that. It was spoken through truth and desire for harmony. So that's what it is. And it will not have the intent that some may have thought it would have by using it as a prop. So I appreciate those words.
I have a question, and I like the way when Barbara brought it out about when you forgive someone, you break the bond, not the bond, the binding of that person, and you open the door where that person can see the forgiveness. And not only that, when you were saying what you bind in heaven, you bind on earth, and what you loosen in heaven, you loosen on earth. And not only that, when you were talking about zero, I saw zero in a physical way, like everybody else probably saw it. But when Barbara explained it to me, I didn't see it as a physical way. I saw it spiritually, because to move forward, a zero got to be there with every number. And that's how I saw it. And I think Reb, when he was talking to me, and especially George, when he brought up the 490, I don't understand it all, and I hadn't grasped it all, but I had grasped this part to explain it to you. And that's all.
Appreciate that, Charles. And this is a suggestion from someone who gains from listening to the video. If you get a chance, you pick up so much more, because when we're on the line here, my mind wanders sometimes. Somebody can say a sentence and I pick one word out and it grabs my mind. And I have forgotten the next 3 or 4 sentences that you said, or I missed them. So as you said, you trying to grasp it all. I bet it helps you if you listen to the video. You get a chance to, okay? It helps me when I do that.
Okay.
Something else you said. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I mean, it's just like when you start looking at stuff physically, you understand, and then sometimes you don't understand. But spiritually, you start seeing, not seeing, I saw. And not like I seen it, I saw what the zero meant. And it meant, like that you were saying, it's a wound. Everything have to start with a wound. If it don't, it ain't happening. You can't get, it's just like a pregnancy. I mean, well, I'm babbling now. if you can't, everything comes from that zero.
Yeah.
And
Everything.
and if it come any other way, it's not right. It's not pure. It's not the right way of coming. There's so much I'm trying to say, but is it jamming up in my mind?
You're getting it though, Charles.
Absolutely. You're getting it, brother. Yeah.
You're getting it. Yeah.
Is that because Charles is seeing it with the eye instead of the eyes?
Oh yeah.
That's what's happening.
The other thing about zero too is when you add zero to a number, it kind of supercharges it, like gives it a superpower. So if zero is a womb and it adds on to a number, then it's like it's really important then, and it charges it up and it gives it kind of a superpower. So yeah, Charles, I agree with you.
Great observation.
Only thing I'm saying, if we can grasp just that right there, it's gonna be an explosion time.
I had the feeling when Pastor was talking that everything we've studied over the years has been released for anybody that wants it. It's out there for people to understand. They desire it.
The other
Any
thing is, as you were talking,
Yes.
Ron, and you were saying everything is released, even though with the eyes things look so unbalanced, we are the balance.
Yes.
However few in number we are, it doesn't matter physically. What matters is spiritually what the universe is being seated with. So we have the capability balancing world.
I agree with you whole.
Stay the course.
Yes.
Yes. I embrace that. Yes. Yes. Yes.
The earth the heavens were shut up for 700 years before man heard from God. That's not the exact quote, but you know the scripture I'm talking about. And then came Jesus. Here we are. Ask yourself this question. Before we started this journey, or now that we're on the journey rather, and we look back, have we really heard from God? Or did we hear from those who used the book to manipulate? The genuineness of our parents, of the people before us, their genuineness is what kept us. Even though the efforts of teaching the scriptures was for the purpose of control, the genuineness of our people kept us. Because if you really think about it, we were told maybe not in all the same words, that I don't see how white people can go to church twice on Sunday and in between lynch somebody and not even bother about it. They don't know God. In some way, form, or other, that's what we heard. And in saying that, that was an expression of the genuineness of the desire to be one with the Creator. Ask yourself, are you upset with anyone? Are you angry? Are you caught up in a circumstance that takes so much time and has you in such a place of uncertainty, stressing you out, until it's hard for you to focus on who you are? Do you have enmity? Do you have anything against anyone with whom you work? How do you get along with your family or colleagues? Just because they have adversarial mindsets, it doesn't mean you have to. Have you truly embraced the reality of what it means when Jesus says, "Is it not written that I say that ye are gods?" As God moved through the congregation of the gods, he spoke. Have you embraced that? Or will you die as a mere man or mere human, as opposed to living as Elohim? Why do I raise these questions? Because self-examination is important. Barbara said, "We are the balance of the world." That's a bold statement, but it is a real statement. We are the balance of the world. If we are the balance of the world, then are you balanced? Are you off kilter? If you are and can't find your way back, call someone, because we are our brother's keeper. In December of 2011, we made a vow to the universe, and we did not know what we were doing or how it would take place, that the prophecy of the Mayans would not come to fruition. What we were saying then is that the reason humanity will not be destroyed or wiped out or have a redo is because we desire to be the balance that's necessary for humanity to move to a place where it has never been before, and that is the embracing of who we were created to be. Prior to that moment, there had been battles on every political front you could think of. There have been battles on every religious stage that you've ever seen. But none of those battles had as its goal to bring humanity to a place of harmony, to a place of balance. all of the battles that we have seen in religion have been to guide people to a place that does not exist and to make them afraid of a place that does not exist. Barbara, flesh and blood did not show that to you nor tell you that. It resonated very deep. Matter of fact, the vibration of it, I still feel when those words were spoken. We are the balance of the world. And only the universe can balance the world. So that's who we are. Thank you. And I am very grateful that you spoke what you saw. I'm done.
Okay. In fairness to Kathy, I'm sorry. Any other questions or comments before we? Just want to mention something, Pastor. Before you got on the line, Kathy had a couple questions, and Barb and I answered them. But I told her I'd let you address them if you would, please. And actually, this one of them was Matthew 24:35. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words should not pass away. I think we've really been speaking to that all afternoon. But if you would, please. Or do you want to save these till for Saturday? It's up to you. Pastor, you on mute?
You know I am.
Sorry about that, sir.
That's okay. That was my fault. I can address them.
Okay.
However, the question is, Kathy, did you say Kathy raised the question?
Yes, sir.
Is it okay to wait till Saturday? That's the question.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. The reason I asked that is because I believe that the response that I see, at least at the beginning of it, is going to bring a discussion and go open up gates. And it's going to go beyond where we are now in terms of time, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, Kathy.
Beautiful evening, guys. Beautiful, beautiful evening. I hope we enjoy our meditations on this. We enjoy our meditations on this evening. Any thoughts or questions, please write them down. George, thank you for your help, man, with the numbers and everybody spoke. Barb, Audrey with your questions, Charles, and Pastor. And I know I'm missing somebody, but everybody had questions. Emil, beautiful job. And everybody who did not speak, your energy is felt. We are one. We are one. Don't forget that. This is one. So have a great rest of your evening and have a good week, and look forward to Saturday morning. Okay? Thanks again.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.